Welcome back. I'm glad you're here tonight. Before we begin, take a moment to settle in. Let your shoulders fall, let your breath slow, and let the quiet of this moment wrap gently around you. Because tonight, we return once more to the ancient world, to a realm above the clouds, to a sacred mountain where the gods once walked, a place where lightning, oceans, wisdom, and shadows all held their own thrones, Olympus, the eternal palace of the divine. But tonight, we will not follow the thunder of Zeus, nor the roaring waves of Poseidon, nor the shadows of Hades. We will not chase the hunt with Artemis, or the clash of bronze with Athena, or the warfire of Ares. Tonight, we follow something softer, something gentler, something quieter than all the storms of Olympus combined. A warm, glowing presence, a flame that never flickered, never faltered, and never turned away from its purpose. Tonight, we follow the goddess whose warmth held the world together, Hestia, the keeper of the hearth, the guardian of eternal peace, the quiet heart of Olympus itself. So, if you're ready, close your eyes and listen. Above the world of mortals, far beyond the noise of cities and the pull of daily life, there stands a mountain crowned with clouds. At its summit, the air is thin, the winds are ancient, and the halls of the gods shimmer with a soft, golden glow. Normally, Olympus is a place of echoes, footsteps of immortals, voices filled with power, arguments, laughter, and commands. But not tonight. Tonight, everything is still. The wind glides gently through marble corridors, carrying with it the faint scent of cedar and crushed olive leaves. And somewhere deep within the palace, down a quiet, open hall, a single flame burns. Not tall, not fierce, just warm, steady, alive. It crackles softly, its light dancing across the polished stone floor, casting orange reflections that gently sway like sleepy waves. This flame has burned since the dawn of Olympus. It never dies, never dims, never turns cold, because someone is always watching over it. Someone gentle, someone patient, someone kind. Hestia. While the world remembers the great battles of the gods, their tempests, their loves, their tragedies and triumphs, few remember the one goddess who never sought glory, the one who never raised a weapon, never demanded worship, never fought for thrones or kingdoms. She asked for only one thing, peace. Tonight, her flame glows for you as well. Its warmth reaches out, like an open hand, inviting you closer, inviting you to rest, inviting you to breathe. And as you stand before the sacred hearth of Olympus, you feel the world soften, the wind quiets, your thoughts slow, and the glow of the fire wraps around you like a blanket woven from ancient light. This is where our story begins, not with war, not with thunder, but with warmth, with the simplest and most human of all comforts, the hearth, a symbol of home, of gathering, of protection. In every Greek household, from the smallest cottage to the grandest palace, there was always a flame dedicated to Hestia. Every family meal, every birth, every prayer, every welcoming of a guest, all began with her. Even the Olympian gods, for all their power, for all their storms and legends, returned again and again to her quiet light. Because, while every throne on Olympus stood for dominion, Hestia's hearth stood for belonging. She was the warmth that held the heavens together. And tonight, she will hold your night together too. Listen closely. Do you hear it? The soft rustle of wind brushing against marble columns, the gentle crackling of ancient firewood, the rhythmic breath of Olympus as it sleeps. These sounds guide you deeper, farther, down the golden hallways, past the silent statues, past the shimmering tapestries that tell old stories, and all the way to the quiet chamber at the mountain's heart, the chamber of the hearth. Here, the air feels different, softer, warmer, as though the walls themselves are exhaling. You can feel the glow against your skin, not hot, not sharp, just comfortably warm, like sunlight resting on your hands at the end of winter. And at the center of it all, she stands, Hestia. Her presence is not grand like Zeus, not dazzling like Apollo, not severe like Athena, not wild like Artemis. She stands with a gentle posture, hands folded near the flame, her expression serene, her eyes reflecting flickering gold. There is something timeless about her, something ancient, something steady. She is the firstborn of the Olympian gods, and yet the quietest, the one most forgotten, and yet the one who keeps Olympus alive. Her hair, soft as woven smoke, falls around her shoulders like whispers. Her robe glows faintly, lit by the flame she guards, and every time she breathes, the fire brightens as though it breathes with her. For a moment, you simply watch, the goddess tending her flame, the flame illuminating her face, and the silence of Olympus holding everything in place. Then, slowly, Hestia lifts her gaze. She sees you, and she smiles. A small, gentle smile, as warm as the hearth itself. It feels like being welcomed home, welcomed to a place you've been before. Even if you don't remember it, welcomed to a story that has lived quietly in the world since the very first fires of humanity were lit. She gestures softly. Come closer. Sit by the fire. Rest. The night is long. The world outside is distant. And the story she carries is older than memory. A story of light born in darkness. A story of sacrifice and peace. A story of a goddess who asked for nothing except the chance to keep others warm. Hestia turns back to the flame. She feeds it a small branch of cedar. The fire hums softly, and the chamber glows brighter. This is the beginning of her tale. And as the warm light settles across your face, Hestia's voice rises like a whisper carried by the wind. Let me show you, she says quietly, how the world first found warmth. And with that, your journey into her story begins. Darkness. A darkness so complete, so absolute, that it felt as though the universe itself had folded inward. No stars, no sky, no sound, just a vast, endless shadow stretching in every direction. This was the prison inside Kronos, a hollow realm where swallowed children drifted between moments, where time had no edges, no beginning, no end. It was neither warm nor cold, neither alive nor dead. It simply was, silent, still, infinite. And into this silence, Hestia fell. Her tiny body drifted weightlessly, as though suspended in a dream too quiet even for breath. For a long while, there was nothing, no motion, no heartbeat, no memory of the world she had left behind. Just soft, heavy dark. But darkness is never truly empty. Deep within it, Hestia's glow small as a candle's ember began to shimmer. A faint warmth pulsed from her chest, fragile at first, barely more than a hint of golden dust. But it grew the way dawn grows, slowly, gently, almost shy. The light wrapped itself around her like a thin blanket, softening the shadows. It clung to her fingertips, glowed softly from her hair, and warmed the empty air around her. Though she was newborn, though she understood nothing of fate or fear, something inside her knew one truth: light must not die. So she kept glowing, quietly, patiently, a lone ember in a world without flame. The darkness around her trembled, not with sound, but with the slightest shift of breath, as if the emptiness itself stirred in its sleep. Soft echoes rippled outward, small vibrations like distant heartbeats that traveled through the cavern of Kronos' body. They reached the walls, bounced back, and folded around Hestia in waves of gentle pressure. To her, it felt like the world sighing, like the universe exhaling. Time flowed strangely here. It moved not like a river, swift and clear, but like warm water swirling lazily in a basin. Moments melted together, seconds stretched and dissolved, hours curled into each other like sleeping animals. There was no morning, no night, no before or after, only the steady drift of existence, carrying Hestia deeper into the quiet. She did not cry. She did not fear. The newborn goddess simply curled inward, holding her glowing hands close to her chest, letting the warmth seep into her bones. In the shadows, her light flickered softly, a heartbeat of gold. Sometimes the darkness pulsed around her, a reminder of the Titan King's massive body far above, his breathing echoing faintly through the vast, silent chamber. To her, the vibrations felt like distant thunder. But even thunder can be softened by warmth, and Hestia was warmth made flesh. As time trickled by, the glow around her brightened, lapping gently at the edges of the blackness. It did not chase the darkness away. Darkness was too ancient, too immense, but it softened the edges. It gave shape to the void. It painted faint curves along the shadowed walls, revealing their immense, smooth surfaces, like the inside of a mountain carved from living night. Here, drifting through this cavern of silence, Hestia became something more. Her glow grew steadier, her warmth grew deeper, and her presence soft, calm, unwavering, changed the very breath of the darkness around her. The air seemed to hum, a low, soothing vibration like the purr of a sleeping creature. And slowly, very slowly, she realized she was not completely alone. Far away, as if across a wide ocean of shadow, she sensed another presence, a tiny spark, faint as the reflection of moonlight on water, and then another, and another. For Cronus swallowed more children, one by one. Each time he consumed another newborn, a soft disturbance shivered through the darkness, a ripple of motion that drifted through the void before settling near Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. They arrived not with sound, not with cries, but with soft pulses of divine energy, like distant lanterns bobbing gently toward her in an endless sea. Before they reached her, they flickered alone, cold, confused, frightened, but then they felt her, the warmth, the glow, the gentle presence that waited quietly in the dark. Each one drifted toward her, drawn like moths to a flame. Hestia's light reached out to them, welcoming them, softening the fear that clung to their tiny forms. Demeter curled beside her first, settling into the warmth like a seed in fertile soil. Hera followed, wrapping her small hands around Hestia's glow as though afraid it would vanish. Hades drifted quietly, his presence cool but curious, resting near the edge of the light. Poseidon arrived last, a shimmering ripple moving through the void, before settling down with a soft sigh. And in that dark, impossible chamber, a chamber that should have been lifeless, the siblings formed the first circle of warmth in the universe. Hestia at the center, her glow bathing them all. The darkness remained, heavy and endless, but it no longer felt empty. Hestia's presence soothed it, like a lullaby hum beneath the surface of silence. Her warmth radiated outward, melting the fear in her siblings' tiny hearts. She had no words, no knowledge, no understanding of their situation, but her glow spoke for her. Her warmth became language. It told them, "You are not alone." Time flowed again, soft, warm, unhurried. It wrapped around the children like a blanket, holding them in a strange, suspended peace. The siblings slept often, lulled by the steady pulse of Hestia's glow. When they woke, they drifted gently around her, as sparks orbit a flame. Her warmth kept them close, her light kept them calm, and though none of them could speak, though their minds were still forming, they understood one thing: where Hestia was, the darkness was softer, safer, kinder. Cronus' prison did not crush them, it did not smother them, because Hestia's warmth turned the void into shelter, a cradle of shadows, a silent sanctuary. Sometimes, the darkness shifted suddenly as Cronus moved in the world above. The walls trembled, ripples shook the air, the children curled closer together, their tiny bodies trembling with the motion. But Hestia's glow responded instantly. It brightened, warm as sunlight through winter branches, wrapping them in a cocoon of gold until the tremors faded. Her siblings relaxed again, their fears dissolving into the warm, steady rhythm of her presence. This pattern repeated over and over as time drifted by like warm water. Darkness, tremors, fear, warmth, calm, sleep, over and over, until the children no longer feared the tremors at all. They had learned to trust the glow. They had learned to trust their sister. Hestia did not know she was a protector. She did not know she was a goddess. She did not even know she was alive, not in the way mortals understand it. She only knew the instinct of warmth, of care, of light. She was the first flame, the first hearth, the first comfort in a world still wrapped in night. And though she was trapped in darkness, she was not diminished by it. In fact, she shaped it, softened it, transformed it, turning the void into something almost peaceful. A strange thought drifted through the shadows then, quiet as a feather falling. If even darkness could hold warmth, maybe the world beyond could too. Far above, Cronus roamed the cosmos, blind to the small miracle glowing inside him. He believed he had won. He believed he had ended the threat. He believed his children were gone forever. But inside him, wrapped in golden light, 5 tiny gods slept beside their sister, their fear held at bay by the quiet flame that refused to die. Hestia's glow became the first dawn the universe would ever know. Not a rise of the sun, not the blaze of celestial fire, but a small, gentle warmth floating in the quietest darkness. A promise of the world that would one day come, soft, steady, unbreakable. In that endless night, Hestia's light pulsed again, slow and warm, a heartbeat echoing through the void. The siblings curled closer. The darkness sighed, and time drifted on, carrying them all toward the moment fate had been waiting for, the moment when another child would be born. A child not swallowed, a child destined to change everything. But for now, in this chapter of silence, the world rests. Shadows cradle the children. Warmth glows where none should exist. And Hestia, the firstborn, the quiet flame, keeps the dark from becoming despair. Even in the belly of a titan, even in the vastness of silence, her light remains. Soft, steady, alive. Far above the darkness where Hestia and her siblings drifted, a quiet storm of fate was beginning to form. It began on a night when the wind on Mount Othrys carried strange whispers, and the sky trembled softly, as if sensing that destiny was about to change its course. Rhea felt it first, a stirring inside her, a flutter of life, gentler and brighter than anything she had felt before. Another child was growing, another spark, another hope. But fear tightened around her heart like icy chains. She knew what would happen if Cronus learned of this new life. He would do as he had done before. He would take the child, crush her hope, and swallow his fate all over again. Rhea could not bear to lose another baby. Not again. Not to fear. Not to prophecy. And so she hid her trembling hands beneath her robes, kept her breath steady, and prepared for the moment every mother dreads. When the child was finally born, the sky did not darken. Instead, a faint shimmer of silver light spilled across the cave walls, washing the stone with gentle radiance. It was a boy, tiny, fragile, glowing with a bold, golden spark, a spark unlike anything Rhea had ever seen in her other children. Something in him felt powerful, awake, alive, a destiny wrapped in soft newborn skin. Rhea held him close, her heart aching with both love and terror. She whispered his name, Zeus, the future hidden inside the breath of a baby, the hope her heart had waited for. But heavy footsteps echoed through the chamber. Cronus, approaching, coming to take what he believed must be his. Rhea knew she had no more time. She looked down at the baby in her arms, her tears falling warm across his small forehead. "I will not lose you," she whispered, "not this time." And with trembling fingers, she prepared a deception as old as fear itself. She picked up a stone, smooth, heavy, and cold, and wrapped it carefully in soft swaddling cloth, folding the fabric until it looked like a sleeping child. Her heart pounded, her hands shook, but her resolve did not break. The real child Zeus she hid away, pressing him into the arms of Mother Earth, Gaia, who cradled him gently and swept him far from Cronus' reach. Then Rhea turned to face the Titan King. Her eyes were steady, her breathing slow. Cronus entered the chamber, his towering shadow spilling across the ground like a dark tide. He looked down at the bundle in Rhea's arms. No warmth crossed his face, no tenderness, only fear masked by cruelty. "Hand him to me," Cronus demanded. Rhea hesitated, only a heartbeat, the smallest pause, brief enough to hide, long enough to break her heart. Then she placed the stone-wrapped bundle into Cronus' waiting hands. He swallowed it whole, no hesitation, no suspicion, no awareness that destiny had just slipped through his grasp. And when the deed was done, Rhea turned away, tears falling silently, each one heavy as a star. But far away, beyond Titan reach, a newborn infant slept safely under the sheltering branches of a sacred mountain. Hidden among nymphs and divine spirits, Zeus grew in secret. The winds of the world carried his laughter. The earth beneath him hummed with strength. The stars above watched his every breath. He grew not as a shadow child, but as a child of destiny, strong, curious, hungry for justice he did not yet understand. The nymphs cared for him tenderly, feeding him honeyed milk and bathing him in water drawn from the oldest springs of the earth. And each night they told him stories. Stories of the sky he would one day claim. Stories of the siblings he did not yet know he had. Stories of the darkness that awaited him. A darkness he had the power to break open. As Zeus grew, he became bold, quick, sharp as lightning, yet gentle as a summer wind. He could feel something calling to him, a soft warmth, faint and distant, like a fading heartbeat echoing through the world. Though he did not yet know their names, he felt his siblings. He could sense the dim glow of Hestia, the firstborn flame, her warmth reaching outward, guiding him, pulling him toward his destiny. He felt Demeter quiet as spring roots curling beneath the earth. He felt Hera, a small ember of fierce potential. He felt Hades cool, still, like hidden water. He felt Poseidon, a soft ripple in the fabric of time. They were alive, trapped, waiting, and the knowledge burned inside him like fire. Years passed, each one shaping Zeus into something more formidable, more aware, more destined. The nymphs saw the spark in his eyes, a spark that pulsed with lightning, with rebellion, with the promise of change. And finally, when he was grown, Gaia whispered to him the truth of Cronus, the truth of the prophecy, the truth of the swallowed children waiting in darkness, and the truth of what Zeus must do. Zeus did not hesitate. He did not fear. He felt the weight of destiny settle across his shoulders like a cloak of storm clouds, and with fire in his heart, he descended from his hidden sanctuary to challenge the Titan King. Cronus looked down at him with confusion, then suspicion, then alarm. Zeus, a son he never knew survived, stood tall before him, eyes blazing with stormlight. "You cannot run from fate," Zeus said softly, his voice steady, resonant, carrying the weight of every swallowed child. Cronus reached out to strike him, but Zeus was faster. With a swift motion, he offered Cronus a cup filled with a divine elixir, a draught crafted by Gaia herself. The Titan king drank. The earth trembled, the sky shuddered, and Cronus' face twisted with sudden, violent force as the magic surged through him. A roar of light burst from his chest. A tremor tore through the cavernous halls. And then, one by one, beams of brilliance erupted from his body, each one a god being freed. The moment was not violent, not grotesque, not cruel. It was like watching stars being born, pure radiance, a blinding cascade of soft, divine light pouring into the world for the first time. Hera emerged first, wrapped in shimmering gold. Poseidon followed, his body glowing with deep, shifting blues. Demeter stepped forward, green and gold, like a sprout breaking through soil to find the sun. Hades appeared next, a cool shadow edged with soft silver. Each of them fell into Zeus' waiting arms, trembling, newly reborn, their memories a blur of shadow and warmth. And last of all, after a pause so long it felt as if the world held its breath, the faintest glow appeared. A soft orange shimmer, a tiny ember floating upward. Hestia, her light flickered gently, weaker than the others, but warm, so warm that even Zeus felt his heart soften. She drifted into the air like a firefly, her body small, fragile, yet still glowing with the same soft radiance she had carried through the darkness. Zeus reached out his hands, and the moment his fingers touched her, the warmth pulsed stronger, as though she recognized him, as though she had been waiting. She had survived Cronus' belly the longest. She had protected the others. She had held the darkness at bay. And now, at last, she was free. The siblings gathered together, their lights mingling in gentle harmony. Zeus stood before them, tears shining in his eyes, knowing that this moment, this soft, radiant reunion, was the beginning of everything, the beginning of their rebellion, the beginning of their destiny, the beginning of a new world. As Hestia nestled into her siblings' arms, her glow pulsed with quiet relief. She was tired, she was worn, but she was alive and no longer alone. The darkness was behind them now. Ahead lay dawn, a dawn the world had never seen, a dawn they would create together. The world changed the moment the 5 freed gods stepped into the light. The air shifted, the sky trembled, and somewhere beneath the mountains, destiny stirred with a deep, echoing breath. But Hestia did not see war in the way others did. She saw the space between breaths, the fragile calm before chaos, the trembling fear behind courage, and the warmth needed to hold it all together. When Zeus declared that he would confront the Titans, the air around him crackled like the first spark of a storm. Lightning curled around his hands, raw power humming beneath his skin. Hera stood beside him, her presence sharp, focused, determined. Demeter summoned quiet life around her fingers, roots and seeds pulsing with potential. Hades was silent, watching the shadows move as if listening to secrets beneath the earth. Poseidon's gaze was distant and deep, like waves preparing to rise. But Hestia looked at them and felt something very different. She felt the weight of what was coming, the fear buried behind her siblings' eyes, the exhaustion waiting in their bones. War had not yet begun, but already the world seemed colder. So she stepped forward, her soft glow wrapping around them like dawn's first touch. "Rest when you can," she whispered without words. "You will need warmth. You will need calm. You will need a place to return to." They did not fully understand her, not yet, but they felt her. Her warmth, her steadiness, her silent promise. And that was enough. The war began not with an explosion, but with a shiver through the earth. A slow, rumbling shift that spread across mountains and valleys, echoing the ancient resentment of the Titans rising to defend their rule. Zeus stood at the center of it, thunder gathering at his fingertips. But Hestia did not stand beside him. She stepped back, not out of fear, not out of weakness, but because she knew the world needed something the battle itself could not provide: a refuge, a hearth, a flame that would not waver even when the skies tore open. And so she found a quiet place between two great stones, a hollow sheltered from the worst of the winds. There she knelt, cupping her hands together. A spark flickered, then another, and slowly, a small flame bloomed in her palms, soft, golden, steady. The first hearth of the rebellion, the first sanctuary. The fire grew just enough to warm the air, to soften the strain in her siblings' hearts, to remind them that even in war, there could be peace somewhere. As the battle roared across the horizon, Hestia stayed still, watching, listening, holding space for hope. Thunder echoed in the distance. Mountains shifted. The deep groan of Titans moved through the earth like distant drums. But Hestia's flame did not flicker. Whenever Zeus stumbled back toward the sanctuary, his chest heaving with exhaustion, Hestia lifted her glow toward him. The warmth wrapped around him, easing the tension in his shoulders, softening the lightning still crackling through his veins. He rested there, only for moments. But the moments mattered, and each time he left, his storm burned brighter. Hera came next, her strength strained, her resolve trembling. She rested beside the flame, letting the soft gold light smooth the fear from her heart. Demeter curled near the warmth, letting her roots drink the heat before rising again. Poseidon sat in silence, his ocean gaze flickering with quiet gratitude. Hades said nothing at all, but the shadows around him softened each time he neared the flame. Again and again, the gods returned to Hestia, and again, she greeted them with warmth, with calm, with the quiet strength only she could give. The world above them shook with fury. The sky cracked open with thunder, the sea writhed, the earth groaned. But at the center of it all, Hestia's small fire burned without fear. She watched the flashes of light, lightning from Zeus, earth power from the Titans, deep waves from Poseidon, and instead of war, she saw shapes of exhaustion, waves of fear, and the weight of a future hanging in fragile balance. She whispered warmth into the air, letting it spiral outward, reaching her siblings even when they were far from her sight. A reminder, a comfort, a breath of stillness in a storm that seemed endless. Time passed strangely in the war. Hours stretched, days folded, nights dissolved into twilight. The world existed in a constant hum of tension and release, like the long, slow rhythm of a sleeping giant. But Hestia kept the rhythm steady. When her siblings stumbled near collapse, their divine bodies aching with strain, they returned to her flame, their sanctuary carved in the heart of chaos. And with each return, their strength renewed, their resolve sharpened, their hope rekindled. Hestia felt every tremor of their pain, every weight they carried, every fear they held beneath their bravery. And though she never lifted a weapon, she fought in her own way. She fought by keeping the flame alive. She fought by warming hearts hardened by fear. She fought by steadying breaths shaken by exhaustion. And in doing so, she held Olympus together even before Olympus existed. The war raged around her like a storm circling a lighthouse. But lighthouses do not need to move. They do not need to shout. They only need to shine. And Hestia shone, quietly, gently, steadily. The gods realized something then, something simple but profound. They fought with lightning, with waves, with stone, with shadows. Hestia fought with warmth, with stillness, with peace, and somehow her strength held them together far more tightly than any weapon could. The tide of war began to shift, slowly, then swiftly. Zeus' lightning grew sharper. Poseidon's waves rose stronger. Hades' shadows moved with purpose. Hera's command cut through chaos. Demeter's life force bloomed through cracks in the earth. Together, empowered by their quiet sanctuary, they rose. And at last, with a final crash of thunder that lit the sky like a new sun, Zeus struck the blow that ended the Titan reign. The world stilled. The echoes faded. The storm softened into silence. And all that remained was the trembling breath of a new era. The era of the Olympians. Zeus walked slowly back to the hollow where Hestia kept her flame. He looked older, wiser, wearier, and brighter all at once. He knelt beside her, and for a moment, a rare, unguarded moment, the king of Olympus bowed his head in gratitude. Hera placed her hand on Hestia's shoulder, her eyes soft in a way they rarely were. Demeter smiled with quiet warmth. Poseidon nodded, the sea in his eyes calm for once. Hades stepped forward silently, his shadows curling gently at the edges of the flame. None of them needed to speak. The truth lived in the silence. They had won the war, but they could not have done it without the warmth that kept their spirits alive, without the flame that never dimmed, without the gentle goddess who had held the world steady while it trembled. And as the siblings stood together, surrounded by soft golden light, Hestia's flame rose just a little higher, as if acknowledging its place in the dawn of a new age. A hearth flame at the center of the storm. A quiet heart at the birth of Olympus. A warmth that would guide them for all eternity. The war was over. The thunder faded. The mountains stopped trembling. And for the first time since the beginning of the world, the air felt light, soft, full of something new, possibility. The Olympian siblings stood together on the quiet battlefield, their bodies tired, their spirits trembling with relief, their hearts finally free. But for Hestia, something else stirred, a gentle tug inside her chest, a warmth rising from within that seemed to guide her gaze upward, toward the sky, toward the future, toward the place destiny had kept waiting. Olympus, the new home of the gods, the crown of the world. A mountain older than memory, its peak lost beneath swirling silver clouds, its stones humming softly with the breath of creation. When Zeus lifted his hand toward the summit and declared it would be theirs, the wind itself bowed. A new age had begun. And so, with the world quiet behind them, the siblings began their ascent. The climb was long, but the air grew clearer with every step. Cool winds brushed their skin like gentle hands. Sunlight shimmered through drifting veils of cloud, painting soft gold streaks across the sky. But it was Hestia who reached the summit first, not with speed, not with force, but with a quiet pull, a knowing drawing her upward, as though the mountain itself whispered her name. When her foot touched the final stone, the clouds parted, and Olympus revealed itself. It was beautiful, not in a grand, overpowering way, but in a way that felt like the beginning of peace. Columns of white marble rose from the ground, smooth and tall, catching the early morning light as if they were carved from frozen dawn. Delicate vines curled along their bases, sparkling with dew. Shafts of sun slipped between them, casting slow-moving beams of gold across the floor. A cool mist drifted lazily around the courtyard, glowing faintly as the first rays of light touched it, turning every droplet into a miniature star. The air tasted clean, pure, alive. And the silence. It wasn't heavy like the darkness inside Cronus. It was gentle, a soft hush like the world inhaling, waiting for someone to fill it with warmth. Hestia stepped forward, her bare feet brushing against smooth stone. Each step felt familiar, as though she had walked these halls 100 times before. In dreams she could not remember. She touched one of the columns lightly, her fingers tracing its cool surface. The stone hummed beneath her touch, as if greeting her, as if recognizing her, as if welcoming her home. Zeus arrived moments later, his storm-lit eyes widening at the sight of the gleaming palace. Hera followed, her breath catching softly. Demeter smiled with quiet awe. Poseidon let his hand trail through the mist, watching droplets cling to his skin. Hades stood still, his shadows softening at the edges as the gentle morning glow washed over him. But none of them moved with the certainty that guided Hestia. She walked ahead of them, drawn toward something none of the others seemed to sense. A warmth, a pulse, a voice without sound. She entered through a wide archway carved from moonstone, its surface shimmering in the shifting light. On the other side lay the great hall. Majestic pillars stretched toward the sky, their surfaces etched with swirling patterns that resembled the flow of time itself. The ceiling was open, revealing a slice of pale blue sky. Sunlight streamed down in soft golden ribbons, dust motes floating like tiny sparks suspended in the still air. But the hall's true heart lay at its center, a circular hearth, empty, waiting. The stone around it was untouched, no soot, no ash, no burn marks, as though it had never known flame. Yet Hestia felt it, a calling, a gentle warmth blooming beneath the surface, a silent heartbeat. She walked toward it slowly, her breathing deepening with every step, her own inner glow responding in quiet pulses. When she reached the edge of the hearth, she knelt. Her siblings watched from afar, their footsteps fading into silence. They did not speak. They did not interrupt. They simply waited, as though sensing that what was about to happen belonged to her and her alone. Hestia placed both hands on the cold stone. The moment her palms met the surface, a warm tremor rippled through the floor. The hearth glowed faintly. The air thickened with soft gold light. Something ancient stirred, older than titans, older than gods, older even than the world itself. The sacred flame, her flame. A spark flickered, small, gentle, a heartbeat of fire rising from the stone as though awakened from a long sleep. Hestia inhaled deeply, her chest filling with warmth that spread like dawn across her skin. She cupped her hands, lifting the newborn flame into her palms. It danced softly, responding to her touch, glowing brighter as though recognizing its keeper. Her siblings stepped closer, eyes wide with wonder. Zeus whispered, almost too softly to hear, "She was meant for this." The flame swelled gently, casting a shimmering golden circle across the marble floor. Shadows softened, light deepened. The hall warmed, filling with a sense of peace so profound even the lingering echoes of war seemed to fade. Hestia rose slowly, the flame floating above her hands. She held it carefully, as though lifting the first morning of the world, as though holding a promise, as though holding destiny itself. And then, with a gentle sweep of her hand, she guided the flame into the hearth. It settled softly, glowing like a small sun. The warmth spread outward, rolling through the hall like a wave of comfort. It brushed against her siblings, slipping beneath their skin, warming the cold places fear had left behind. For the first time since their birth, they felt truly at home. Hestia stepped back, her face bathed in golden light. The flame crackled softly. It did not roar. It did not leap. It simply glowed, steady and gentle, just like her. In that moment, Hestia understood. She knew why the darkness inside Cronus had not broken her, why the war had not shaken her, why the mountain had whispered her name. This flame had been waiting for her since the beginning, waiting for her hands, her warmth, her quiet strength, her presence, her care, and she knew deep in the center of her chest that she would tend this fire for eternity, that she would keep Olympus warm. that she would be the stillness others returned to, that she would be the light in the halls of gods. The flames swayed gently, as if nodding in agreement. A partnership formed, a binding not of force, but of harmony. Zeus approached her, his expression softer than she had ever seen. "Hestia," he said quietly, "the hearth of Olympus is yours." She bowed her head, accepting the role carved for her by destiny. Her siblings each stepped forward, touching the flame with reverence, feeling the warmth that would guide them through the ages. And as the sun climbed higher, its rays streaming into the hall, the flame grew brighter, its reflection shimmering like liquid gold across the marble. For the first time, Olympus felt alive, warm, whole. Because Hestia had arrived, because the flame had chosen its keeper, because the quiet heart of Olympus had finally taken its place. Hestia stood before the hearth, her glow blending with the fire, her presence steady as stone and gentle as dawn, and the world newly reborn exhaled its first true breath of peace. The sacred flame glowed softly in the heart of the great hall, its warmth rising in gentle waves, painting golden patterns across the white marble floor. It flickered with calm purpose, as though breathing, as though alive. Hestia stood before it, her hands resting lightly against the stone rim, her eyes reflecting the glow like two small suns. The dawn outside slowly brightened, but it was nothing compared to the warmth blooming inside Olympus. The first morning of the gods' new home had begun. One by one, her siblings gathered in the hall, still quiet from the exhaustion of war, their faces softening in the comforting air. Zeus entered last, his presence marked by a faint hum of distant thunder, though even his storm seemed gentler here, subdued by the calm radiance of the hearth. He approached Hestia slowly, his expression thoughtful, almost reverent. "Hestia," he said, his voice low, carried by the stillness of the room, "Olympus has found its light through you." She bowed her head slightly, more out of humility than obedience. "I lit only what was already here," she whispered. But Zeus shook his head. "The flame was waiting," he said, "but only you could awaken it." The flame behind her brightened, as if agreeing. A soft glow rose around Hestia, curling like dawn around her shoulders. The gods watched her quietly, Hera with measured admiration, Demeter with warm affection, Poseidon with silent respect, Hades with his steady, shadowed calm. They felt it too. This flame belonged to her. It had always belonged to her, and she to it. But beneath the surface of peace, Hestia felt something else stirring inside her. A pull, a responsibility, a truth forming like a soft ember at the very center of her heart. She turned toward her siblings, her gaze gentle yet unwavering. "I have something to say." The room fell still. Even the flame seemed to hush, its crackling softening to a delicate whisper. Hestia stepped around the hearth, the golden light trailing her like a loyal shadow. She stood before Zeus, before Hera, before all of Olympus, her posture steady, her breath slow, her presence quiet but powerful. When she spoke, her words flowed like warm air rising from the fire, soft, calm, certain. "We have fought a war to free ourselves," she began. "But the shadows of conflict will always linger when power is shared." The gods exchanged glances, their expressions tightening at the memory of the Titans' war. The fear, the trembling earth, the endless storm. "But the heart of Olympus," Hestia continued, "must be a place untouched by such storms." Her voice softened further, as gentle as the flame that guided her. "A place where peace can breathe." She lifted her gaze, her eyes glowing softly with reflected firelight. "I want to be that peace." Zeus' brow furrowed. "Hestia, you have already." She raised her hand, a quiet gesture, soft but commanding. "I want to be peace, forever." Silence settled again, heavy, profound, thick with something sacred. she continued, her voice steady despite the tremor of emotion in the room. I will never raise a hand in anger. I will never take sides in conflict. I will not seek power, nor claim dominion over any realm. I will not be drawn into the struggles of gods or mortals, and I will never let my heart become a weapon. Her siblings watched her, their faces softening as the truth of her vow washed over them. She took a breath, slow and deep, as though inhaling the warmth of the sacred fire. I vow to remain pure of conflict, she said, her hand resting over her heart. I vow to remain untouched by desire that clouds judgment. I vow to remain whole, so I can give peace to those who need it. I vow to stay chaste, so my purpose is never divided, and I vow to tend this flame for as long as the world exists. The words flowed from her like a warm river, gentle but inexorable. I will be the hearth, she whispered, the place every soul returns to. Hera's eyes softened, Demeter's breath hitched, Poseidon lowered his gaze, and even Hades bowed his head in respect. Zeus stared at her, awestruck. Hestia, he murmured, your vow is heavier than any crown. She smiled, a small, quiet smile, one that warmed the hall more deeply than fire ever could. It is not heavy, she said. It is who I am. The flame behind her surged, blooming into a sphere of golden light that cast shimmering waves across the hall. It wrapped around Hestia, embracing her, as though the sacred fire itself accepted her promise. And then Zeus stepped forward, slowly, deliberately. Hestia, he said, firstborn of our family, warmth of our hearth, keeper of our peace. His voice deepened, carrying the authority of storms, but softened by profound respect. You deserve a throne among us. Hestia bowed her head. I do not need a throne. Zeus shook his head, smiling gently. But Olympus needs you to have one. He lifted his hand, and from the light above, a seat of polished marble materialized, smooth, white, simple, but glowing with the soft radiance of dawn. Not imposing like Zeus' throne, not regal like Hera's, not mysterious like Hades, not wild like Poseidon's. It was gentle, elegant, warm. It looked less like a throne and more like an invitation. The throne of peace, the first of the 12 thrones of Olympus, offered to the firstborn child, offered to the goddess who had never sought it. Zeus extended his hand. Hestia, he said, sit among us, not as a warrior, not as a ruler, but as the heart of this new world. Hestia hesitated not from fear, but from humility. A throne felt unnecessary, too grand for someone who wished only to warm others. But then she looked behind her at the sacred flame, burning brighter every moment, waiting for her, waiting for the goddess it had chosen. She stepped forward. Her siblings watched with reverence. The flame flickered like a soft breath, and Hestia took her seat. The moment she touched the throne, a wave of warmth rippled through the hall, soothing every corner, softening every shadow, making every god exhale in deep, sudden peace. It was as if Olympus itself recognized her, as if the mountain bowed, as if the sky smiled. Zeus raised his hand, declaring in a voice that echoed across the heavens, Hestia shall sit as one of the 12 Olympians. She shall tend the sacred flame. She shall keep peace among gods and mortals alike. She shall remain pure, steadfast, and eternal. And no throne will shine brighter than hers, for hers is the throne that warms them all. A hush settled over the hall, as if the world held its breath to honor her vow. Hestia sat quietly, bathed in firelight, her expression soft, her heartbeat steady. She did not look like a queen. She did not look like a conqueror. She looked like a sanctuary, a home, a hearth, the beginning of peace in a world still learning to breathe. Her vow had been spoken. Her throne had been claimed. Her destiny had unfolded not through force, not through power, but through quiet, unwavering warmth. The flame glowed beside her. Her siblings stood united around her, and Olympus, for the first time, felt truly alive. Hestia closed her eyes, letting the warmth seep gently into her skin, and in that moment, a new chapter of the cosmos began. A chapter lit not by lightning, nor by wrath, nor by ocean storms, but by the quiet flame of the goddess who vowed to keep peace forever. Olympus had settled into a gentle rhythm. The sacred flame burned softly in the heart of the great hall, casting warm light across marble floors and filling the palace with a peace that felt timeless. Hestia tended it each morning, moving with quiet grace, her presence steady and comforting, like the soft glow of dawn rising over the world. Her siblings had settled into their new roles, Zeus as ruler, Hera as queen, Poseidon beside the sea, Hades in the quiet depths below, Demeter with her fields, and the others with their realms and gifts. Olympus was finally whole, balanced, at peace. But peace rarely lasts forever, and destiny rarely leaves a throne empty. One morning, as mist curled through the columns and sunlight drifted lazily into the great hall, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed gently through the air. Zeus entered, his expression thoughtful, a quiet storm of emotion beneath his calm exterior. Behind him walked a young god, vibrant, radiant, with eyes sparkling like fermented starlight. His presence was lively, warm, full of joy and sorrow woven together like vines around stone. Dionysus, the god of wine, of celebration, of ecstasy, and of the fragile boundary between joy and madness. Hestia paused in her tending of the flame, her gaze softening as she studied him. Dionysus moved with uncertainty, as though unsure of his place, unsure of his welcome, unsure of the role he had been called to fill. Zeus placed a hand on his shoulder. "My son," he announced, "now grown in strength and spirit, shall take his place among the gods of Olympus." The words echoed through the hall, gentle yet heavy. A new Olympian, a new presence in their family, a new divine flame to add to the constellation of gods. But with Zeus' declaration came an unspoken truth. There were only 12 thrones, and all 12 were occupied. A hush fell across the hall, a hush so deep it almost extinguished the warmth in the air. The gods looked at one another. Expressions tightened, shoulders stiffened, eyes darted from throne to throne. No one wanted to be the one removed. No one wanted to step aside. No one wanted to lose their place. Hera was the first to speak, her voice soft but edged with concern. 12 seats for 12 Olympians, she murmured. To gain one is to lose one. Demeter frowned, her hands curling into the folds of her green robes. This decision will cause discord, she whispered. Poseidon's gaze hardened, storms gathering in his deep blue eyes. No one should be cast out, he said, his voice steady but firm. Ares clenched his jaw, tension lining his posture like a drawn bow. Athena narrowed her eyes, mind turning behind a calm expression. Apollo and Artemis exchanged uneasy glances. Even Hades, silent and withdrawn, felt the air grow heavy around him. And Dionysus, poor Dionysus, bowed his head, shadows of doubt flickering across his lively eyes. "I do not wish to displace anyone," he whispered. "I only wish to belong." Zeus looked troubled, his brows furrowing as he scanned the thrones. "We cannot deny him," he said quietly. "He is my son, a true Olympian, and worthy of a seat." Silence deepened, stirring tensely in the air. The thrones gleamed under the warm light, each one representing power, responsibility, identity. No one stepped forward. No one volunteered. The tension grew, a quiet storm beneath the surface of the hall, and then a soft sound, the faint rustle of fabric, the gentle tap of sandals against marble. Hestia stood. Her movement was quiet, so quiet that at first only the sacred flame noticed, its glow brightening gently in recognition. She stepped out from the circle of warm light, her posture calm, her expression serene. The entire hall turned to her. The air shifted, even the sunlight seemed to pause. She walked toward Zeus, her steps steady, each one whispering against the polished floor. When she reached the center of the hall, she stopped. The flame flickered behind her, casting a soft halo around her silhouette. Her voice, when it came, was gentle, but it carried through the hall like a bell chiming in still air. "Zeus," she said softly, "my brother, I have a solution." Zeus blinked, taken aback by her certainty. "What do you propose, Hestia?" She turned slowly, her gaze moving across her siblings, across the thrones, across the hall. "Let Dionysus have my seat." A ripple went through the room. Shock, confusion. Even the flame seemed to flare. Hera stepped forward urgently. "Hestia, no, your place is here." Demeter shook her head, eyes wide with disbelief. "You are one of the firstborn," she said. "That throne is yours by right." Poseidon's voice was rare in its gentleness. "Sister, you need not do this." But Hestia only smiled, a small, warm, glowing smile that softened the very air around her. "My place has never been a throne," she whispered. "My place is the flame." She turned to Dionysus, whose eyes had begun to glisten. "Welcome home," she said gently. "You belong here." Dionysus shook his head, voice breaking. "Hestia, I cannot take your throne." But she stepped closer and placed a soft hand on his arm. "You will not be taking," she whispered. "I am giving." Then she turned toward Zeus, her voice growing even softer, yet somehow stronger. "I choose peace. I choose harmony. I choose to keep Olympus whole. And if one seat must be yielded, let it be mine." Her words settled on the hall like warm ash. Quiet, soft, unforgettable. Zeus stared at her with awe, the weight of her sacrifice sinking into his heart. "Hestia," his voice trembled, "you honor us beyond measure." She bowed her head, hands folded before her. "My throne will not be empty," she said. "It will simply change shape." She stepped back. The gods silently parted, giving her room. Every eye followed her, every breath held still. Hestia walked to her throne, the throne of peace. She placed her hand on its cool, polished surface. For a moment, she let her fingers rest there, feeling the history it held, the warmth it had gathered, the quiet power it carried. Then, with slow, deliberate grace, she turned and walked away. Each step echoed softly, like the final notes of a lullaby. She walked past Zeus, past her siblings, past the stunned, breathless silence, until she stood before the sacred hearth at the center of the hall. The flame rose the moment she approached, glowing higher, brighter, as though greeting its keeper. Hestia knelt, the firelight wrapping around her like an embrace. Her glow brightened, melting seamlessly into the warm radiance of the flame. In that moment, the entire hall felt different, warmer, softer, more whole than before. Zeus stepped forward, his voice carrying across all Olympus. "Hestia," he declared, "you have shown more wisdom and more love than any throne could ever contain." He lifted his hand, and firelight gathered in a brilliant arc above her, spinning into a ring of pure gold flame. "You shall be known forever," he proclaimed, "as keeper of the sacred flame, guardian of the hearth, protector of peace." The golden flame ring settled gently behind Hestia, glowing like a halo born of fire itself, and the hearth blazed higher, answering the decree with silent joy. Dionysus took the empty throne, his eyes full of gratitude and sorrow all at once. He bowed deeply to Hestia. "I will honor what you gave," he whispered. Hestia turned her head, the firelight reflecting in her serene eyes. "And I will keep the flame alive." The hall exhaled, the tension dissolved, and the air warmed with a peace deeper than any battle victory. Hestia sat near the hearth, her posture relaxed, her glow soft but steady. She no longer needed a throne. She no longer needed a title. She had something greater, a purpose woven from warmth, from kindness, from eternal quiet strength. And as the sacred flame crackled softly beside her, the gods of Olympus finally understood. Hestia had not stepped down. She had stepped into who she truly was, the quiet heart of Olympus, the eternal flame that would warm the world for all time. Morning on Olympus is not like morning anywhere else in the world. It arrives softly, slowly, like a warm breath drifting across the sky. The air grows pale first, a thin wash of gold spreading through the clouds, touching the marble columns with the faintest shimmer of light. Cool mist curls along the ground, coiling around the feet of statues and pillars, quiet as sleeping silk. And in the center of the great hall, where the sacred hearth rests, a gentle glow lingers from the night before, a small, steady ember that never truly sleeps. Hestia wakes before all others, not because she must, but because her heart stirs with the dawn. Her eyes open softly, as though waking from a dream woven from warmth and light. She stretches slowly, feeling the warmth of the hearth pulse faintly against her skin, like a heartbeat calling to her. The palace remains silent. The gods still sleep in their chambers, wrapped in dreams and starlight. Even Zeus' thunder rests, a low hum hidden behind the stillness. But Hestia rises. She rises because the flame whispers for her, because the hearth stirs when she stirs, because Olympus depends on the warmth she brings. Her footsteps are soundless as she moves across the marble floor, bare feet brushing lightly over cool stone, like petals drifting over a calm river. She kneels before the hearth, the faint glow illuminating her face in gentle gold. The flame is small now, not extinguished, never extinguished, but resting, breathing, waiting. Hestia smiles softly, lifting her hand toward the ember. "Good morning," she whispers without sound. The flame flickers in response, a tiny spark rising like a sleepy nod. And so her ritual begins. Every morning, every day, for eternity. She starts by clearing the ashes. Her hands move slowly, carefully, as though touching something sacred because she is. The ash is soft beneath her fingers, warm but not hot, fine as powder, the remnants of yesterday's offerings. She gathers it gently, cupping it in her palms, letting it settle into a small bowl carved from white marble. The bowl glows softly, warmed by her touch. She smooths the hearth's surface with slow, sweeping motions, cleaning away yesterday's breath, making space for today's. The air around her thickens with the comforting smell of warm embers, a scent so ancient it feels woven into the very bones of the palace. When the hearth is clean, Hestia reaches for the sacred wood. No mortal tree grows such wood. It comes from the groves of Olympus, trees that sprouted when the world was young, their roots drinking from the veins of the earth, their branches reaching into divine sky. Each piece glows faintly, lined with tiny veins of golden light, as though the wood itself remembers sunlight from centuries ago. She chooses the pieces carefully, never too large, never too heavy, just enough to nourish the flame without overwhelming it. She places the logs gently into the hearth, arranging them with a practiced touch so they rest in perfect harmony, each supporting the other. Then she leans forward, close enough that her breath mingles with the faint warmth of the ember. She inhales slowly, deeply, letting the air fill her lungs, letting her heartbeat synchronize with the soft pulse of the flame. And then she exhales, a warm, steady breath, soft as a whisper, warm as morning sunlight. Her breath touches the ember, and the ember brightens. A soft glow first, the faintest shimmer rising from its core. Then a pulse, a single beat of light, another breath. The ember swells, a coil of gold unfurling within the wood. Hestia breathes once more, a long, gentle exhale that seems to carry the warmth of worlds. The flame awakens. It rises slowly, stretching upward like a waking child, its golden fingers curling through the air, crackling softly, whispering with tiny sparks that dance across the stone. The sound is calming, a delicate, rhythmic crackle, like small pebbles shifting in a warm riverbed. Light swirls across the floor, gliding up the marble pillars and scattering like fireflies along the ceiling. Hestia watches the flame with a tenderness that could warm the coldest corners of the world. The flame grows taller, but never wild, never chaotic. It grows the way sunlight spills over mountains, the way petals open in spring, the way breath slips out of a sleeping child, gentle, purposeful, alive. Hestia cups her hands around the flame, not touching it, but guiding it with her warmth. Her palms glow faintly, their radiance interwoven with the flame's golden pulse. She whispers to it, a whisper made not of sound but of steady intention, a language older than gods, older than stars. The flame responds. It calms, settles, becomes steady. Its crackling softens into a slow, rhythmic pattern, like a heartbeat of Olympus. Hestia breathes in the warmth, letting it soak into her bones, letting it fill the spaces the night left behind. She feels it spread through her chest, through her shoulders, through her fingertips. The warmth is not hers. Not entirely, but she shares it, guides it, holds it, protects it. When the flame reaches its perfect balance, neither too high nor too low, Hestia begins the second part of her ritual. She stirs the embers with a slender rod of celestial bronze, each motion slow, circular, intentional. Tiny sparks rise into the air like glowing pollen drifting on a breeze. Some settle into the flame again. Some float upward, dancing toward the open sky. Hestia watches them, her expression softening even further. The sparks remind her of children she once soothed in darkness, siblings she warmed in the belly of a titan. They are memories, moments, echoes of a past she carries quietly. When she finishes stirring, she brushes stray ashes from the edges of the hearth, her fingertips moving with reverence, her posture relaxed yet precise. Then she settles into her seat beside the flame, her body angled slightly toward it, as though listening to a friend speak in gentle tones. The flame crackles, a soft, comforting sound, a sound that fills the halls of Olympus like a lullaby. The light flickers across the marble, dancing over the floor in ripples of gold, climbing the tall pillars, glimmering across ancient patterns etched into stone. A quiet hum begins in the air, not loud, not sharp, but subtle, like the low resonance of a harp string touched ever so lightly. It is the sound of peace, the sound of balance, the sound of Olympus breathing. Hestia closes her eyes. She inhales the warmth, feeling it swirl within her like gentle currents of honeyed air. She feels the flame's pulse match her own. One steady beat, then another, and another, aligned, connected. Two hearts, one mortal-shaped, one divine, moving in perfect harmony. She opens her eyes again. The flame reflects in them, twin golden sparks glowing quietly. Hestia begins to hum, a soft, nearly inaudible sound, a melody older than the world. The flame sways gently, responding to her voice, its movement slow and fluid, like a dancer guided by a loving hand. The hum wraps around the hall, curling into corners, slipping beneath doorways, touching even the rooms where her siblings sleep. The gods do not wake, but their dreams soften, their breathing steadies, their hearts rest more easily, because Hestia's flame is watching over them. She lifts her hand again, and the flame bends toward her as though greeting her. She lets her fingertips hover just above its warm glow, close enough to feel heat, far enough to preserve its sacred boundary. She whispers another wordless prayer, sending gratitude into the fire and allowing it to flow back into her. The warmth spreads through the hall, filling every crevice, every carved symbol, every quiet shadow. It settles onto the floor like a blanket of golden dust, soft and peaceful. The light reaches the high ceiling, reflecting off the mosaic tiles, casting patterns that ripple like sunlight on calm water. The great hall becomes a sanctuary of warmth, a living, breathing heart. And Hestia sits in its center, the goddess of home, of peace, of pure, gentle flame. She remains there for a long while, listening to the fire crackle, to the soft whispers of warmth rising around her. And slowly, as the morning deepens, the flame begins to change. It pulses more steadily, its light glowing with renewed strength. Its warmth expands, rolling outward in soft waves, blessing the marble, blessing Olympus, blessing the world beyond. Hestia places her hand over her heart, feeling the flame within her echo the flame before her. Two fires, one purpose, one rhythm, one peace. The day has begun. Olympus awakens to warmth, to comfort, to her. The sacred flame glows like the quiet sun at the center of all existence. And Hestia, soft, serene, eternal, keeps it alive with every breath she takes. Every morning, forever. The morning light continues to soften as it filters deeper into the great hall. Shadows retreat quietly into the corners, curling like sleeping animals returning to their dens. The warmth of the sacred flame expands, stretching outward in gentle waves that glide across the marble, touching each pillar, each carved pattern, each quiet chamber beyond the hall. Hestia watches the light move, her eyes half closed, as though listening to a private melody only she and the flame can hear. She tilts her head slightly, feeling the warmth brush her cheek like a soft hand. The flame responds to her attention, its glow fluttering with small sparks that dance upward like golden dust motes. The sparks drift toward the high ceiling, twirling slowly before dissolving into the air like delicate fire-born snowflakes. Hestia reaches for the bronze rod again, moving with the unhurried grace of someone who has all the time in the world. She stirs the embers one final time, lifting a few glowing coals to the surface so they can breathe more freely. Each coal pulses gently as if exhaling warm breath of its own. She brushes her fingertips lightly across the edge of the hearth, loosening a faint ring of ash that settles like gray petals into the marble bowl. Then she closes her hands around the bowl, lifting it with care, not out of burden, but out of respect. Every remnant of the flame is sacred. Every particle of ash carries memory. When she stands, her robe spills quietly around her feet, soft fabric kissing the floor with each movement. She walks toward the open balcony carved into the far side of the hall. Columns rise on either side like tall, silent guardians. Wind drifts through the opening, cool and clean, carrying the scent of pine from the forests below and the sweetness of morning air. Hestia steps into the light. The sky is an endless wash of pale gold, stretching far above the world, touching the tops of distant mountains, draping the valley below in gentle haze. She closes her eyes and lets the sunlight rest on her face, warming it with a soft, bright kiss. Then she tips the marble bowl, letting the ashes fall. They scatter into the wind, each particle glowing faintly as it catches the sunlight, drifting downward like falling stars returning to the world. Some settle into forests, where they will feed the roots of ancient trees. Some drift into the sea, where they will dissolve into salt and tide. Some sparkle across the fields, where farmers will one day bless their crops in Hestia's name. And some float far beyond mortal reach, becoming part of the quiet breath of the sky. When every grain of ash has been carried away by morning wind, Hestia returns to the hearth. The great hall feels warmer now, not from the rising sun, but from the balance she has restored. She kneels again before the flame, her hands resting softly in her lap. The fire quiets, its crackling slowing to a soft, rhythmic whisper. The gentle sound echoes through the hall, a steady, calming heartbeat that makes the marble seem alive. Hestia inhales deeply, drawing the warmth into her chest. It fills her the way still water fills the hollow of a stone basin. Slowly, completely, without force. She exhales, and the flame leans toward her, as though breathing with her. Their breaths synchronize. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Steady, soothing, timeless. The palace slowly awakens. Far off in the distance, a soft footstep echoes down a hallway, the sound of a god stirring from sleep. The whisper of feathers signals Hermes passing quickly through a side chamber, his sandals brushing the floor like wind. Apollo's lyre gives a faint, sleepy note from his room as he stretches beneath golden sheets. Ares shifts, armoring, sighing softly around him, though even his restlessness eases under Hestia's warmth. Artemis breathes deeply in her forest-scented chamber, dreaming of moonlit hunts. Even Zeus, whose storms never fully sleep, exhales quietly as the warmth touches him, calming the thunder in his blood. Hestia senses all of this, not through sound, not through sight, but through warmth. The flame tells her the state of Olympus. It always has, it always will. She places her palm near the fire, feeling its soft heat brush her skin. Then she rises slowly, her body moving with the gentle rhythm of someone who has tended this flame for centuries and will tend it for centuries more. She reaches for a small jar of fragrant oil, amber-colored, thick, gleaming like sunlight trapped in honey. It was pressed from the fruits of divine orchards that only gods may enter. She uncorks the jar, a faint aroma drifting into the air, sweet, warm, with hints of citrus and sacred resin. She dips her fingers into the oil and lets a single drop fall into the flame. The fire responds instantly, not with a roar, not with a leap, but with a soft, rich glow that deepens into a golden-orange halo. The aroma fills the hall like a warm blanket settling across cold shoulders. The gods will wake soon, and the scent will greet them gently, inviting them to begin the day in peace. Hestia wipes her fingers on a cloth of snow-white linen, then places the oil back on the shelf carved into the wall. She steps around the hearth, checking each side as she always does, a small ritual that brings her a quiet sense of order. She adjusts a piece of wood, barely a hair's width. She sweeps a stray ember back into place. Each movement is gentle, purposeful, unhurried. There is no haste in divinity when it is rooted in peace. When her inspection is finished, she sits again, this time on the low stone bench built into the rim of the hearth, a seat carved with swirling patterns that resemble curling smoke and rising warmth. She folds her hands in her lap. The fire leans slightly toward her, a friend settling closer, drawn to her presence. She smiles, a small, soft smile that glows warmer than the flame itself. Hestia hums again, a melody so soft that even the fire must quiet its crackling to hear it. The tune is ancient, born when the world first learned what gentleness was. As she hums, the flame sways, its movement slow and hypnotic, casting ripples of gold across the marble. The patterns dance along the floor, climb up pillars, spill across the ceiling, filling the hall with a warm, living glow. It feels like sitting inside a sunrise, a quiet sunrise that never ends. The warmth deepens, becoming a steady embrace. It fills the grand hall like breath, soft, rhythmic, comforting. It finds every corner, every shadow, every silent place and warms it. It reaches the long hallways, touching tapestries woven from ancient stories. It glides over the carved thrones, softening even the sharpest edges. It drifts through open doorways, warming chambers filled with dreams. It settles into the stone, into Olympus itself, until the entire mountain seems to radiate gentle heat. Hestia closes her eyes again, letting the warmth settle through her like sand in an hourglass. Minutes pass, or hours. Time moves differently in the presence of peace. The flame continues to burn, steady, alive, eternal. Hestia's presence keeps it balanced. The flame keeps her balanced in return. It is not just a fire. It is the breath of Olympus, its heart, its quiet center, its first comfort, and she is its keeper, always, forever, across ages, across worlds, across everything that has been, and everything that will ever be. The warmth in the hall grows richer, settling deeper into the marble, into the air, into the quiet space where morning and peace blend together like soft colors. Hestia sits beside the flame, her posture relaxed, her hands folded neatly, her breathing steady and calm. The fire reflects in her eyes, two small golden lights mirroring the gentle dance of the sacred hearth. Slowly, a faint breeze stirs through the hall, slipping through the high arches, whispering across the surface of the flame. The fire answers with a soft sway, nudging its glow toward Hestia, as though greeting the morning wind with a warm hello. She smiles, small and serene, her presence steady as the stone beneath her. She lifts her hand again, and the flame rises to meet it, not in hunger, not in force, but in recognition, in companionship. Their bond is older than Olympus itself, older than thrones, older than crowns, older than the wars that shook the heavens. The flame remembers her, always, and she remembers it. She shifts slightly, tucking a strand of soft, firelit hair behind her ear. The hall brightens in response, the golden glow climbing the pillars like vines of sunlight. Each flicker of flame casts gentle new shapes along the walls, patterns that drift slowly as though the stone itself is dreaming. Hestia inhales again, slow and deep, drawing the warmth into her chest. She holds it for a moment, letting it settle, letting it bloom, letting it remind her of everything she protects. Then she exhales, and the flame follows, its light pulsing outward in a soft, even wave. The wave glides across the hall, touching each smooth surface, rolling down the long corridors like calm water. The warmth settles into the floor, making the marble feel almost alive beneath her feet. The sacred flame crackles again, a soft, rhythmic sound, steady and soothing, like tiny bells muffled by warm cloth. Hestia closes her eyes halfway, her lashes glowing faintly in the light. She leans back slightly, allowing her body to rest, to melt into the warmth rising around her. Her breathing syncs with the fire. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, two heartbeats moving as one. Somewhere in the distance, a bird calls out one of the white doves Hera favors, waking with the dawn. The sound drifts into the hall, mixing with the whisper of the flame, becoming part of the morning's quiet symphony. Hestia listens. She listens not as a goddess with duties, but as someone deeply attuned to every soft pulse of the world. She hears the way the fire breathes. She hears the way Olympus hums beneath her feet. She hears the distant sigh of the sky stretching awake above the mountain. It is all one sound to her, one melody, one heartbeat, one shared rhythm of peace. She rises from her seat again, moving in slow, fluid motions, as though her body is guided by the fire's warmth. She picks up a slender bundle of herbs, dried under Artemis moonlight and kissed by Apollos sunlight. The leaves crackle softly in her fingers, releasing a faint aroma of cedar, sweetgrass, and a hint of mountain sage. She sprinkles a few leaves into the flame. The fire sighs not loudly, but with a warm hush like a mother soothing a child. A fragrant cloud rises, filling the hall with a sweet, earthy scent that calms the air and softens the mind. The aroma drifts through the open balcony, down the steps, across the mountain's upper ledges, blessing the air outside with its peace. She sprinkles a little more, her hands moving with a gentleness that only someone born from warmth could possess. The leaves glow ember red before folding into ash, releasing one last breath of perfume. Hestia steps back, admiring the flame as it settles into its ideal glow, steady, golden, just tall enough to radiate strength, just calm enough to soothe even the most restless heart. She has tended thousands of mornings like this. She will tend thousands more, and yet every morning feels new, fresh, alive. Because the flame is alive, the flame changes, it grows, it remembers, and she loves it with a devotion that runs deeper than any oath. She adds a final piece of divine wood to the fire. The flame curls around it tenderly, embracing it like an old friend returning home. Then Hestia sits again, folding her legs beneath her on the warm stone. The floor beneath her feels like a heated blanket, soft and soothing, as though Olympus itself is holding her up. She places her palms on the floor, fingers spread, feeling the warmth seep into her hands the way sunlight fills leaves in the spring. She tilts her head back slightly, face illuminated by the fire's glow. Her hair catches the light, gleaming like soft strands of amber, moving gently with each flicker of flame. A long moment passes, then another, and another. Time slows in the presence of peace. Minutes stretch, moments soften, thoughts dissolve. Hestia becomes one with the hearth, with its warmth, its light, its gentle rhythm. She hums again, but quieter now, almost soundless. A melody that vibrates through the air rather than echoing. The flame shimmers as though hearing her from within. It leans toward her again, its light brushing against her like a warm hand, grateful, content, alive. She opens her eyes slowly, her gaze tender, soft as smoldering embers. She looks around the great hall, observing the way the light touches everything, the way shadows shrink, the way warmth fills every space. Every corner glows, every pillar breathes. Every step of stone seems to pulse faintly with warmth. Olympus is awake because the flame is awake, and the flame is awake because she is. Hestia lifts her hand one more time and places it near the fire, close enough to feel its breath, close enough to share hers, and together, goddess and flame, they welcome the new day. The warmth in the great hall continues to deepen, settling like a golden blanket draped across Olympus. The sacred flame sways gently, its glow moving with the same slow rhythm as Hestia's steady breath. She sits beside it, unmoving, unrushed, as though she and the fire share one long, peaceful heartbeat. The morning mist outside the hall has lifted, revealing distant clouds drifting like pale sails across the horizon. Soft sunlight spills through the arches, painting quiet silver edges along the marble floor. But even the sunlight seems to hush as it reaches the hearth. Even the wind slows. Even the sky feels softer here, because this space is hers, because this warmth belongs to her, because Hestia turns even silence into something gentle. She raises her hand again, palm hovering just above the flame, close enough to feel its pulse, far enough to let it breathe freely. The fire leans toward her touch, tiny sparks fluttering like soft golden feathers. Each spark lifts into the air, floating for a moment, drifting lazily before dissolving into quiet radiance. She watches them disappear, her expression calm, like someone watching snow fall on a quiet winter night. Her shoulders relax, her back softens, and her features glow with a serenity that no war, no crown, no throne could ever grant. This is her realm, this is her throne, this is her eternity, a flame that never falters, a warmth that never fades. As she sits there, the hall begins to awaken around her. Soft footsteps echo from far corridors. A faint yawn drifts through a side chamber. The clink of bronze greets the air as Ares stretches inside his room. Apollo strums a lazy note on his lyre, the sound warm and golden, like sunlight resting on honey. Hermes flits through a distant hallway, the winged sandals whispering against polished stone. Artemis opens her balcony door, letting forest air sweep into her room. Demeter adjusts the hem of her dress, already thinking of the fields below. Hades exhales, a deep, cool breath from beneath the earth, the warmth from the hearth reaching even him, and Zeus, still half-dreaming, stirs as the warmth melts into his bones, steadying him, quieting the storm within. One by one, the gods awaken, their spirits touched by the gentle pulse of the sacred flame. None of them speak at first, they simply breathe, because every day on Olympus begins with Hestia's fire. Every dawn finds its way through her warmth. Every god draws strength from the sanctuary she creates. And though she asks for nothing, though she claims no realm, though she fights no battles, it is her flame that sustains them all. Hestia opens her eyes fully now, gold reflecting gold, light reflecting light. She rises from the stone bench with slow, graceful movements, her robes whispering softly across the floor. She circles the hearth once, checking the flame, ensuring its warmth is steady, ensuring its breath is balanced, ensuring every spark remains gentle and alive. When she is satisfied, she stands in front of the flame one last time. Her silhouette glows in the firelight, the edges of her form shimmering like a figure woven from dawn. She lifts her hand to her heart, her fingertips resting lightly against her chest, a gesture of thanks, a gesture of devotion, a gesture of quiet love. The flame pulses in response, its glow rising for just a moment, like a soft bow made of light. Their exchange is soundless, yet more intimate than words. She whispers in the old, silent way that only the flame can hear. "Be well today." The flame whispers back, "I will, with you here." Hestia smiles a smile that could warm even the deepest shadow. Then she steps back. The flame settles into its perfect form, a heartbeat of Olympus, a light that guides gods and mortals alike. Hestia turns toward the hall, ready to begin the rest of her day, ready to offer peace wherever it is needed. But before she leaves, she glances once more at the flame, her eternal companion, her purpose, her quiet joy. And the hall glows with that final glance, as though touched by a gentle sunbeam. She walks away slowly, her steps soft, her presence leaving a warm trail through the air. The sacred flame burns steadily behind her, its glow deep and confident, its warmth stretching outward like open arms. The day has begun, Olympus breathes, and everything feels safe. Because Hestia is awake, because the flame is tended, because peace has been restored in the quietest, softest, most enduring way. The goddess of the hearth steps into the morning light, her warmth following her like a second dawn, and the sacred flame, the heart of Olympus, beats on, gentle and eternal, waiting patiently for her return. The days on Olympus continue to unfold gently, each morning warmed by the sacred flame, each night lulled into stillness by the soft glow of Hestia's hearth. Hestia moved through these days with the quiet grace of a breeze across warm stone, never hurried, never flustered, never seeking anything for herself. Her beauty was subtle, soft as the light of dawn, radiant as the glow of a candle held in cupped hands. She did not dazzle like Aphrodite, nor gleam like Athena, nor gleam with moonlight like Artemis, yet there was something in her presence that touched the heart differently, a gentleness that calmed storms, a warmth that soothed restless spirits, a softness that made others feel safe. Her beauty did not shout, it whispered, and sometimes a whisper is more powerful than thunder. Word of her kindness spread quietly through Olympus, carried on winds, sung by hearth-keepers, spoken in reverent tones by mortals who lit fires in her honor. Her warmth reached even those gods who usually cared little for softness, and among them were two very different deities, Poseidon, lord of the seas, and Apollo, god of the sun and music. Each saw something in Hestia that pulled at them in their own way. For Poseidon, it was her tranquility, a peace his deep, storming heart rarely felt. For Apollo, it was her gentle glow, a light that harmonized perfectly with his own radiance. And so, in time, each of them came to her with the same question. But the flame knew before she did. It flickered strangely one morning, glowing brighter, as though sensing the shift in the air. Hestia looked up from her tending, her expression softening in curiosity. A faint tremor rippled across the marble floor, not violent, not frightening, just enough to signal the arrival of a powerful presence. The air grew cooler, filled with the scent of deep tides and sea foams. The light dimmed, as though clouds had drifted across the sky. And then Poseidon stepped into the hall, tall, strong, eyes the color of shifting waters, deep and ancient and full of restless emotion. His presence carried the weight of oceans, yet something softened in him as he approached the hearth. "Lady Hestia," he said, his voice rolling like distant waves, "I have come to speak with you." Hestia turned from the flame, her face calm, her warmth steady. "Welcome, Poseidon," she whispered. The flame behind her swayed, as though bowing in greeting. Poseidon looked at her, really looked, and felt something stir in him, a quiet longing that surprised even the Lord of Oceans. He stepped forward, the water in his eyes shimmering with sincerity. "You have brought peace to Olympus," he said. "Your warmth has soothed even my storms." Hestia bowed her head gently, accepting the compliment with humble grace. Poseidon continued, his voice dropping to something almost tender. "I wish to ask you something, goddess of the hearth." Hestia's breath stilled, though her expression remained soft. Poseidon lowered to one knee, a gesture rare for him, one few had ever seen. "Hestia," he murmured, "will you join me in the depths? Will you become my queen? And reign beside me in the sea?" The question hung in the air like a drop of water suspended in time. Hestia looked at him, her eyes warm, filled with a kindness that softened even the mightiest waves. "Poseidon," she whispered gently, "I am honored." And she was genuinely, deeply honored. "You offer me a great place at your side, and I hold your words with gratitude." Poseidon's eyes glimmered with hope. "But I cannot accept." The hope broke, softly, like a wave dissolving into sand. Hestia continued, her voice steady as a quiet flame. "My heart belongs to peace alone. I have sworn a vow to remain untouched by the pulls of desire, to stay pure of all bonds that might divide my purpose. And my purpose is here." She turned slightly, allowing the fire's glow to halo around her. "My life belongs to this flame." Poseidon bowed his head, pain flickering across his features, but he did not speak. For a long moment, he simply breathed, the rise and fall of his chest echoing like tide. Then he stood, his voice low. "I understand." His words were sincere, even if edged with quiet hurt. "You are the only goddess I have ever wished to share my realm with. But I will honor your vow." Hestia placed a gentle hand over her heart, her warmth extending toward him like a blessing. "Thank you, Lord of the Seas." Poseidon bowed once more, deep, respectful, a gesture few had ever earned, and he left the hall with a swirl of sea-scented wind. The flame calmed again, the air warmed, time flowed. Hestia returned to her tending. But the peace would not last, for no sooner had Poseidon left than sunlight spilled into the hall like liquid gold. A soft, melodic hum floated on the breeze, warm as honey, bright as midsummer. Apollo, the god of music, of healing, of radiant light. He stepped into the hall like a sunrise given form, every movement graceful, every breath alive with brilliance. Hestia, he greeted warmly, his smile glowing like sunlight across a quiet lake. She turned to him, her expression as calm and welcoming as always. Apollo, she whispered. Good morning. He approached the hearth, drawn instinctively to her warmth, his golden aura blending beautifully with the firelight. He stood before her, studying her face with a softness few had ever seen from him. You shine brighter than my own sun, he said gently. Hestia felt the compliment settle over her like soft light. She was not dazzled by it, nor flustered, but she received it with grace. Apollo took a breath, the melody in his chest steadying. I have come to ask you something, he murmured. Hestia knew what would follow. Not because she was a seer, but because she knew the hearts of gods in ways even they did not. Apollo lowered his head slightly, a gesture of vulnerable sincerity. Hestia, he said softly, will you share your life with me? Will you join your warmth with my light? Will you let our flames burn together? His words were poetic, gentle, filled with the beauty of a god who loved deeply and honestly. Hestia looked at him, her eyes reflecting the sunlight he carried. Apollo, she whispered, your offer is beautiful, and I receive it with gratitude. He waited, breath still, hope shimmering in his golden gaze. But my answer is no. A hush settled in the room. Apollo's expression faltered, the golden warmth in his eyes dimming slightly. Why? He asked softly, almost childlike in the way his voice broke. Hestia placed a hand over her heart again. Because I have made a vow, she said. A vow to remain pure, so I may keep peace for gods and mortals alike. My purpose cannot be divided. My flame belongs to no one and to everyone. Apollo swallowed, a small crack in his usually perfect composure. You would refuse me for a vow? For a promise to yourself? Hestia nodded, her expression full of compassion. A vow is not a chain, she murmured. It is truth. It is who I am. Apollo closed his eyes, letting her words sink in. When he opened them again, they shimmered with sadness, but also respect. I will honor your vow, he whispered, and then he stepped back. If the story ended here, all would be quiet. But gods are rarely quiet in matters of the heart. Poseidon returned at the same moment Apollo stepped backward. They saw each other, their eyes locked, their expressions tightened. A single crackle of tension filled the air, gentle but unmistakable. You asked her to? Poseidon murmured, a low rumble in his voice. And you were refused as well? Apollo replied softly. The tension deepened, the air shifted, and then, without warning, their powers flared but softly, muted, like storm clouds bumping gently in a distant sky. Poseidon's water rippled at his feet. Apollo's light flickered around his shoulders. A quiet clash began, not violent, not loud, but enough to stir a faint breeze that rustled the edges of Hestia's robe. The sacred flame trembled, uncertain, and that was enough. Hestia stepped forward, her presence warm and calm. Enough, she whispered, 2 simple syllables, barely a breath. Yet the gods froze, their powers dimmed, their anger cooled. For when Hestia spoke, her voice carried the weight, not of authority, but of peace. Your quarrel dishonors the warmth you each carry, she said softly. And it ignores the truth I have spoken. They bowed their heads, ashamed, their powers fading to nothing. Zeus entered then, storm eyes scanning the room. He took in the scene, the tension, the softened powers, the quiet flame. Hestia has made her choice, Zeus said, his voice firm but not unkind. Her vow will be honored by all. Poseidon and Apollo nodded. Hestia stepped back, returning to the flame, her glow steady once more. The flame eased with her presence, its light spreading again in soft, soothing waves. Poseidon placed a hand to his chest. I ask forgiveness, he murmured, Apollo bowed deeply. As do I. Hestia smiled, gentle as always. Peace is restored, she whispered. The flame pulsed a warm heartbeat, echoing her words. And the hall softened again, its light settling into serenity. The gods left quietly, their footsteps fading into the distance, leaving Hestia alone with the sacred flame. She knelt beside it once more, her expression serene, her vow unbroken, her warmth steady, her purpose clear. She was not meant to be queen of the seas, nor partner of the sun. She was meant to be something quieter, something deeper, the heart of Olympus, the flame that warms every god, yet belongs to none, the eternal peace that no desire could ever sway. Olympus had settled into a gentle rhythm after the tensions of the previous days. The sacred flame glowed steadily, its warmth flowing like soft breath through the great hall. Hestia tended it quietly each morning, her movements calm, her presence grounding the palace as always. But one day, the peace shifted, not with thunder, not with storm, but with a strange, hollow ache in the air, as though the mountain itself were holding its breath. Hestia felt it first, a faint tremor in the stone beneath her feet, a soft shudder in the flame, not fear, but warning. She lifted her head, her eyes narrowing gently as the warmth of the flame flickered in uneasy patterns. Something was coming, something powerful, something new. The great doors of the hall burst open, not with violence, but with urgency. Zeus stepped inside, his face tight with pain, his movements stiff and unsteady. The king of the gods, the lord of storms, the wielder of lightning staggered. "Father," Hestia whispered, her voice soft but sharp with concern. Zeus pressed a hand to his forehead, fingers trembling, eyes narrowed against an invisible pressure. A low groan escaped him, echoing off the marble walls like distant thunder. "My head," he murmured. It feels as if the sky itself is splitting." Hestia rose instantly, the flame flaring in response to her sudden movement. She approached Zeus with steady steps, her calm presence soothing even the trembling atmosphere. "Sit," she whispered. "You are in pain." Zeus obeyed, sinking onto a stone bench carved with ancient patterns. He leaned forward, clutching his temples, teeth gritted against the growing agony. Thunder rumbled faintly through the hall, not in wrath, but in suffering. Hestia placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, her warmth flowing into him like soft fire. But even her touch could not ease the pain that pulsed inside the king's skull. Other gods arrived, their faces drawn with worry. Hera, eyes wide, rushed to his side. Apollo placed a glowing hand near Zeus' forehead, trying to soothe him with healing light. But nothing helped. Nothing quieted the storm inside him. Then Hephaestus entered. He walked with measured steps, his presence steady, his hammer slung across his back. He looked at Zeus, felt the air trembling, watched the sparks flickering from his skull like trapped lightning. And he understood. Hephaestus bowed his head. "Father," he said quietly, "I believe something must be released." Zeus forced a breath through clenched teeth. "Do it," he groaned. "End this, before it tears me apart." Hera gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. But Hephaestus stepped forward, his movements controlled, gentle for a god of fire and metal. He lifted his bronze axe not high, not with force, but with precision. Hestia placed both hands on Zeus' shoulders, steadying him, anchoring him with her warmth. The flame behind her dimmed slightly, as though bowing its head in anticipation. Hephaestus inhaled, exhaled, and lowered the blade in one clean, careful strike. The hall filled with light. Not the violent flash of lightning, but a soft, blinding white radiance that poured from the split in Zeus' forehead like dawn bursting through a mountain. The light swirled, taking form, unfolding like a blossom opening in pure brilliance. Hestia shielded Zeus, leaning forward, her warmth buffering him from the shock of release. And then from the light a figure stepped forth, tall, graceful, shining, a woman clad in brilliant white, her armor gleaming like polished moonstone, her eyes sharp and bright with newborn clarity. Athena, daughter of Zeus, born of wisdom, born of thought, born fully grown, fully armed, fully divine. She landed softly on the marble floor, her spear shimmering at her side, her shield reflecting the golden glow of the hearth. For a moment, silence filled the hall. The gods stared, breathless, as though witnessing the birth of the first star. Then Athena turned her gaze toward Hestia, who still knelt beside Zeus. Their eyes met, warmth meeting wisdom, fire meeting mind, softness meeting strength. Hestia rose, her movements fluid and gentle, and approached the newly born goddess. Athena's expression softened instantly, her sharp presence easing under Hestia's warm glow. She reached out, and Hestia took her hands in both of hers. "Welcome," Hestia whispered, her voice filled with a love as soft as firelight. "You must be cold from your journey into the world." Athena blinked, as though surprised to be cared for, as though the first touch she received was something she could feel deep in her soul. Hestia drew her gently toward the hearth. The sacred flame brightened at their approach, glowing with warm acceptance. Hestia settled Athena beside the fire, guiding her hands toward the warmth. The newborn goddess inhaled, her breath trembling slightly, her armor catching the fire's gold and scattering it in bright patterns across the hall. "This warmth," Athena murmured, her voice soft and low. "It feels like home." Hestia smiled. "It is, for all of us." Athena looked at her, really looked as though she was seeing the essence of Olympus for the first time. "You were the first light after darkness," Athena whispered, echoing a truth she somehow knew. "And now you welcome me with that same light." Hestia squeezed her hands gently. "We all begin in darkness, in one way or another. But the flame is here to guide us into the world." Athena leaned closer to the hearth, feeling its heat seep into her armor, melting the cold edge of her newborn divinity. She breathed deeply, centering herself, allowing the warmth to steady her fierce energy. Hestia knelt beside her, watching her with tender pride. The flame pulsed softly, casting their silhouettes in long, soft patterns across the marble. Zeus finally rose, his pain gone, his face softened by awe. He approached the two goddesses, his steps slow, reverent. "Athena," he murmured, "my daughter, welcome to Olympus." Athena stood, straight and tall, yet her gaze flickered back to Hestia, the one who had steadied her first steps. "Hestia cared for me," Athena said quietly. "She gave me warmth before I even understood who I was." Zeus' eyes softened. He looked at Hestia, gratitude shining beneath the storm in his gaze. "You have always been the heart of this family," he whispered. Athena nodded. "She is the first friend I have known. And perhaps," Hestia said gently, "you will choose, as I have, a life of clarity, of purpose, of peace." Athena's eyes glowed. "Chastity?" Hestia nodded. "A vow that frees the mind and strengthens the spirit." Athena lowered her spear, the edge gleaming. "I think," she murmured, "I will follow your example." Their hands met again, warmth and wisdom intertwined. In that moment, a bond formed, not of power, not of blood, not of war, but of purpose. Two goddesses bound by clarity, by purity, by devotion to something greater than themselves. Hestia guided Athena to a seat near the hearth, and the flame danced in welcome. The great hall glowed brighter, filled with a sense of peace so deep it could lull even the wildest heart into stillness. Athena rested quietly, letting the warmth embrace her, letting her spirit settle into its new existence. Hestia sat beside her, a steady presence, a calming glow. And for a long while, the two goddesses stayed there in silence, letting the sacred flame mark the beginning of a new chapter in Olympus. Night falls softly over Olympus. Not abruptly, not with darkness swallowing light, but with a gentle dimming, as though someone draped a silk veil across the sky. The air becomes cool and fragrant, carrying the faint scent of blooming night flowers and fresh mountain air. Tonight is special. Tonight is a celebration. Rhea, mother of the gods, has called her children and grandchildren to gather in her honor, to share warmth and joy after years of turmoil and change. She prepares a grand festival, not loud, not wild, but beautiful in a soft, timeless way. Lanterns hang between marble columns, their golden light swaying gently like fireflies trapped in crystal. Garlands of fragrant flowers, pale moon blossoms, deep purple irises, and silver-edged lilies drape over doorways, trailing soft petals across polished stone. Music begins in the distance, played by nymphs with honey-sweet voices and gentle fingers plucking lyres. It is not a triumphant melody. It is soft, low, a lullaby of celebration enough to soothe even the most restless spirit. Tables are set with nectar, with fresh fruit, with honey-soaked pastries that glow under the lantern light. Rhea sits at the center, her calm presence radiating maternal warmth. One by one, the gods arrive. Zeus greets his mother with a quiet bow. Hera offers her a crown woven of star-shaped blossoms. Apollo carries his lyre, its strings humming softly with anticipation. Artemis brings a wreath from the forest. Demeter brings bread still warm from her divine ovens. And Hestia, gentle Hestia, brings warmth simply by being there. She moves through the celebration like a steady ember carried by the wind, soft, glowing, calming everything she touches. Where she walks, the lanterns brighten. The breeze warms, the music deepens. Nymphs smile. The world feels safe. But even she, the quiet heart of Olympus, is not immune to weariness. The day had been long. She had tended the sacred fire since dawn, guided Athena, soothed her siblings, and welcomed the new rhythms of Olympus. By the time the festival reaches its peak, her eyes grow heavy, her breath softens, her shoulders relax. She smiles at Rhea, bows gently, and steps away from the gathering. She is not leaving the celebration, only seeking a quiet corner where she can rest and let the soft music cradle her into peace. She finds a sheltered alcove near a curved marble wall draped with ivy and pale flowers. A small lantern glows overhead, casting warm circles of amber across the floor. Hestia lowers herself onto a cushioned seat, pulling her knees close, letting the warmth of her inner flame softly ebb and settle. The gentle hum of the festival flows around her like a river of sound music, laughter, the clinking of goblets filled with honey wine. The scents of blossoms and sweet nectar wrap around her like a warm blanket. She lets her eyes drift closed, just for a moment, just to breathe, just to rest. Her breathing slows, her heartbeat steadies. The sacred flame within her glows gently against the night. But somewhere nearby, the celebration begins to fade. Laughter softens. Footsteps become scattered. The lantern light flickers lazily as many gods and spirits slip into drowsy dream. Even the air becomes heavier, like a warm haze settling over Olympus. And in that haze, a sound approaches. Soft footsteps, uneven, slow. Not threatening, but not familiar either. Hestia stirs. Not fully awake, but drifting in that fragile space between dreaming and awareness. The footsteps draw closer. A faint rustle of fabric, a breath that doesn't belong to wind. In the shadows between two pillars, a figure moves hesitant, unsteady, guided by impulse rather than thought. Priapus, a minor god, known for impulses rather than wisdom, for mischief rather than harmony. He had drunk too much nectar, too much honey wine. The world blurred around him, its music echoing in muddled tones, its lanterns glowing in dizzy patterns. In his drunken haze, he wandered away from the festivities. And when he saw Hestia sleeping alone, glowing softly in the lantern light, his clouded mind pushed him forward. He stepped closer, too close. The sacred flame inside Hestia flickered uneasily, but she did not wake. Not yet. The festival's warm air wrapped her in too deep a calm. Priapus took another step, just one, and the air shifted. A creature grazing nearby lifted its head. Silenus donkey, a humble, gentle animal that had accompanied the satyr to the feast. Its ears twitched. Its eyes narrowed. It sensed something wrong in the way small animals often do. The donkey inhaled sharply, hooves scraping lightly against the marble. Then it brayed, loud, sharp, echoing through the hall like a sudden burst of alarm. Hestia's eyes snapped open, soft amber light flooding her gaze. She sat upright, instantly aware, instantly grounded, instantly calm. The sacred flame inside her ignited in a protective pulse. Priapus froze, as though caught beneath a falling star. Hestia looked at him not with fear, not with anger, but with a steady, unwavering calm that made even the shadows grow still. Her voice was soft, barely above a whisper. Stop. Priapus stumbled backward, the haze of wine breaking under the weight of her steady presence. The donkey brayed again, its call echoing like a warning bell. Hestia rose gently, her warmth quiet but firm. She stepped forward, not in threat, but in the way light moves into darkness, soft but absolute. The festival's glow brightened. Gods stirred. Steps echoed. Zeus arrived first, his expression shifting from confusion to concern to command. Poseidon followed, brows furrowed. Apollo came next, light flaring around him in protective instinct, and Hera, her eyes sharp, her voice calm but powerful, took Hestia's hand. What happened? Zeus demanded quietly, thunder rumbling beneath his tone. Hestia's voice remained gentle. No harm was done, she whispered, thanks to a small guardian. She gestured toward the donkey, who blinked slowly, ears flicking as though proud of himself. The gods followed her gaze. For a moment, the hall fell silent. Then understanding settled over them like soft moonlight. Zeus nodded once, solemn and controlled. A guardian, indeed. Priapus, now sober with shame, bowed deeply, unable to meet Hestia's gaze. I acted foolishly, he murmured, his voice trembling. I meant no harm. The wine clouded my mind. Hestia observed him quietly, her expression unreadable. Then she spoke, still in her soft whisper, still with the same calm that soothed storms. You will respect the peace of Olympus and the vow I have taken. Priapus nodded. Yes, I will. Zeus stepped forward, placing a firm but fair hand on the minor god's shoulder. You will make amends, he said, and you will remember the innocence you nearly disturbed. Priapus bowed repeatedly, then left the hall in silence. The gods turned back to Hestia. Hera brushed a hand across her cheek, motherly and gentle. Are you well? Hestia smiled softly. Yes, thanks to our unlikely protector. She knelt and placed a gentle hand on the donkey's head. The animal responded with a soft huff, pressing its warm face into her palm. A ripple of warmth spread through the hall, soothing every heart, softening every shadow. Zeus chuckled quietly, some of the tension slipping from his face. Then let this creature stand honored, he said. He protected the heart of Olympus tonight. Hestia nodded, her eyes glowing in the lantern light. And he shall be a symbol of alertness, of protection, of gentle guardianship. The donkey brayed once more, softer this time, as though accepting its new role. The gods returned to the festival, their steps calm, their hearts lighter. Hestia stood for a moment longer, her hand still resting on the donkey's warm head. She whispered, "Thank you." The night resumed its gentle rhythm. Music once again drifted through the air, slow, warm, a lullaby woven from starlight. Lanterns glowed softly. Nectar shimmered in crystal cups, and the sacred flame, flickering far in the great hall, glowed in quiet harmony with Hestia's heart. The danger had passed. Peace had returned, and even in the soft shadows of Olympus, a humble creature now stood watch, forever tied to Hestia's warmth, forever symbolizing the gentle vigilance that protected the goddess of the hearth. Long after the Titans fell, long after Olympus rose in marble and gold, long after the gods took their thrones among the clouds, Hestia's influence did not stay confined to the halls of immortals. Her warmth drifted downward, through the air, through the clouds, through the sky, until it reached the world of mortals, a world hungry for comfort, for belonging, for peace. And the people felt her. They felt her not in storms or miracles, not in thunder or earthquakes, not in power that shook the world, but in something much smaller, much gentler, much more human. Fire, the simple warmth of the hearth, the heart of every home, the soul of every family. No matter how far her flame traveled, its warmth carried her presence, its glow carried her promise, its comfort carried her name. In every home across ancient Greece, before meals were eaten, before prayers were spoken, before any task began, a fire burned in honor of Hestia. A small, steady flame kept alive at the center of the house, not roaring, not fierce, but warm, soft, constant, just like the goddess herself. A family's hearth was more than a place of warmth. It was the heart of the household, the place where stories were told, where bread was baked, where children fell asleep in the glow of golden embers, where parents whispered hopes into the quiet air, where life unfolded gently each day. And at the center of all of it was Hestia. She was in the crackling of burning olive wood. She was in the scent of warm bread. She was in the laughter shared between siblings. She was in the quiet peace that settled after a long day. Mortals felt her presence, not as a goddess who demanded offerings, but as a comforting warmth that made any place feel like home. Every household flame belonged to her. Every hearth fire was dedicated to her. And so long as one spark remained alive, Hestia's blessing remained with the family, steady, gentle, eternal. But her warmth did not bless only homes. It blessed cities, because just as every family has a hearth, so too did every city. At the very center of each Greek polis, there stood a building called the Prytaneum, the city's hearth house. Inside it, a sacred fire burned day and night, never allowed to die, never left untended. This was the flame of Hestia, the flame of unity, the flame of belonging. As long as that fire burned, the city lived. Citizens gathered around it in times of trouble. Leaders made decisions before it. Oaths were sworn in its glow. Disputes were settled under its warmth. And when strangers traveled long distances, seeking refuge, seeking friendship, seeking acceptance, they were welcomed by the flame because Hestia's presence meant hospitality. A city without a flame was a city without a heart. And so the flame was never permitted to fade. Priests and priestesses watched over it, feeding it sacred wood, whispering prayers, tending it with the same devotion that Hestia herself showed to the hearth of Olympus. The flame was always warm, always steady, always alive. But perhaps the most beautiful expression of Hestia's influence came from the Greeks' journeys beyond their own shores. For the ancient Greeks were explorers, seafarers, dreamers. They built ships to cross vast waters, seeking new lands, new beginnings, new homes. But they never left home without her. Whenever a group of settlers prepared to leave their city, they made a pilgrimage to the Prytaneum. They approached the sacred flame, bowed their heads, and lit a new fire, a small, glowing ember carefully cradled in a bronze vessel. This ember was not just fire, it was home, it was connection, it was the living breath of Hestia, traveling with them across oceans, through storms, through darkness, through the unknown. The settlers guarded it closely, sheltering it from wind and rain, feeding it tiny pieces of sacred wood until their ships reached new shores. And when they arrived on distant coasts, on foreign soil, beneath unfamiliar skies, they carried the ember ashore and lit a new hearth, a new flame, a new sanctuary. This was the first act of every new colony. Not building walls, not raising temples, not planting crops, but lighting the fire of Hestia, because no place could be a home until her warmth blessed it. No people could be a community until her flame united them. No land could be lived in until her glow illuminated it from the inside. She was the goddess who traveled the world in the smallest sparks. She was the link between old homes and new ones, between families and cities, between the world behind and the world ahead. Mortals loved her for this, not with fear, not with trembling awe, but with gratitude, with affection, with the simple joy of knowing that someone watched over the quiet moments of their lives. Where other gods received grand temples, Hestia received homes. Where other gods demanded sacrifices, Hestia accepted warmth. Where other gods shaped rivers, mountains, storms, Hestia shaped something far more delicate: belonging, connection, family, peace. She was prayed to at the beginning of every feast and at the end. Her name opened ceremonies and closed them. Her flame brought strangers together and turned them into friends. Her warmth made even the poorest cottage feel like a palace. And every time a mother lit a lamp, every time a child warmed their hands, every time a traveler was invited inside, her presence grew brighter, not in power, in love. Her influence did not roar. It whispered. It soothed. It softened the world. Olympus had its storms, its battles, its rivalries, its passions. But Hestia had her flame, and through it, she held everything together. For what is a world without warmth? What is a home without fire? What is a city without a heart? Mortals understood these truths, even when they could not speak them aloud. And so they kept her flame alive, always, through drought and winter and war and calm, through births and marriages and funerals and the quiet days in between. The flame of Hestia was passed from generation to generation, like a secret of comfort whispered from mother to daughter, father to son. And even now, in distant memory, in ancient ruins, in the echoes of old stories, her warmth still lingers. In the first spark of a campfire, in the glow of a candle, in the scent of bread rising in an oven, in the hush of a peaceful home, Hestia is there, quiet, steady, eternal, not in grandeur, not in spectacle, but in warmth, the kind that makes any place feel safe, any heart feel at rest, any family feel whole. She is the goddess of the hearth, the guardian of peace, the unseen warmth that binds the world together. And every time a flame is lit with gentle hands, she is reborn again. Night descends upon Olympus slowly, not with darkness crashing down, but with a gentle dimming, as though the sky itself is drifting into a soft dream. Stars begin to shimmer above the mountain, small silver flames scattered across an endless velvet canvas. The wind quiets. The birds settle. Even the clouds drift more lazily, their edges glowing faintly under the moon's pale light. Olympus, the grand home of the gods, takes a long, calm breath. Halls that thundered with voices during the day now rest in silence, their marble corridors bathed in soft, bluish glow. The 12 thrones stand empty, their grandeur softened by the hush of night. Behind closed doors, the gods sleep. Zeus slumbers with no storm in his chest. Hera breathes evenly, her face peaceful in the quiet shadows. Apollo curls beneath warm golden sheets, his lyre silent beside him. Artemis lies under a silver moonbeam, bow resting gently by her side. Ares sleeps with armor loosened, peace touching him for once. Demeter dreams of quiet fields. Poseidon sleeps as though floating beneath calm waters. Hades sinks into a deep, quiet stillness that even the underworld cannot disturb. Athena rests with her shield beside her, her face softened by the warmth she absorbed that day. Hermes sprawls across his bed, wings half folded, still faintly glowing from miles he traveled. Dionysus dreams of peaceful celebrations, his vines curling softly across the floor. All of Olympus sleeps, except one. At the heart of the great palace, in the chamber where the ceiling opens to the sky, the sacred flame continues to burn. Its glow reflects off marble pillars, turning them into tall silhouettes of soft gold. And beside it, as she always is, as she always will be, sits Hestia. Her posture is relaxed, her hands resting gently in her lap. The firelight paints warm patterns across her face, softening her features, illuminating her eyes with flickers of molten amber. She watches the flame carefully, quietly, lovingly. Not to guard it, for the flame is steady, but because its presence fills her with peace. Because this is where she belongs. Because this flame is hers, and she is its. In the silence, the flame crackles softly. Each spark rises slowly, floating upward on gentle air currents before dissolving into faint golden dust. The sound is quiet, rhythmic, like the purring of a small creature safe and content by her side. Hestia inhales, drawing the warmth into her chest. She exhales, and the flame sways gently in response. It breathes with her. She breathes with it. In the deep quiet of night, she can feel Olympus breathing too. A slow, steady pulse, deep in the stone beneath her. A faint tremor of life running through the walls, down the hallways, under the pillars, up into the open air. The mountain itself feels alive, not loud, not vibrant, not thunderous, but quietly aware. It feels like a heartbeat, a soft, steady rhythm echoing through the palace. And Hestia listens. She listens the way someone listens to a loved one breathing in their sleep. She closes her eyes, letting her awareness sink into the stillness. She feels Zeus' calm, Hera's steady dreams, Apollo's warm glow, Athena's thoughtful rest. She feels Artemis' moonlit serenity, Demeter's gentle slumber, and Poseidon's deep watery quiet. She feels Hades' silent peace, Ares' rare calm, Hermes' faint, restless movements even in sleep, and Dionysus' soft laughter drifting through dreams. Every breath of every god whispers through Olympus. The sacred flame hears them all. And so does Hestia. She is the quiet heart of this vast, divine home. Its center, its warmth, its calm. Hestia opens her eyes again. The soft orange glow dances across her face. She leans closer to the flame, cupping her hands near its warmth without touching it. Its heat brushes her palms, gentle as a sigh. She whispers not words, but a feeling, a prayer made of warmth. The flame brightens, responding in the same silent language. It pulses softly, one slow beat, another, until it matches the gentle rhythm of Olympus' sleeping heart. Hestia smiles. Her warmth deepens. She stands slowly, her robes brushing lightly across the floor like soft waves touching sand. She walks around the hearth, checking the embers, adjusting a piece of sacred wood, guiding one spark back to safety. Each gesture is quiet, precise, filled with devotion. The flame settles again, glowing steady and strong, casting its soft golden light across the hall. Hestia smooths the ashes, her hands gentle, her movements calm and unhurried. She wipes a small corner of stone, polishing it with a cloth woven from moonlight threads. She touches the edge of the hearth, a simple gesture, yet one filled with affection. Then she sits again, folding her legs beneath her, resting her hands in her lap. The flame's warmth spreads outward like a warm tide. It fills the chamber with a soft, comforting glow. It moves down the hallways, slipping under doorways, touching each sleeping god with a gentle brush of heat. Zeus' breath grows steadier. Hera sighs softly in her sleep. Apollo's dreams brighten with golden hues. Athena's thoughts settle into deep rest. Artemis' heartbeat slows. Demeter curls more deeply under soft blankets. Poseidon drifts into serene underwater dreams. Ares releases the tension in his shoulders. Hades relaxes more fully into the quiet. Hermes' restless wings still slightly. Dionysus' smile softens. The whole mountain eases under the flame's touch. Hestia can sense it. She feels peace expand, fill every crevice, every shadow, every corner where worry once lingered. Her warmth unravels tensions, softens fears, smooths restless edges. The flame is the heartbeat. She is the breath. Together, they cradle Olympus through the night. She leans her head slightly, listening again. The pulse of the mountain, the slow breaths of sleeping gods, the quiet crackle of the sacred flame all blend into one peaceful rhythm. The rhythm of home, the rhythm of belonging, the rhythm of Hestia. She closes her eyes, not to sleep, but to rest in the warmth she has created. Her breathing is soft, gentle, in perfect harmony with the flame. She sits there for hours, watching the night deepen and then lighten again as the moon drifts across the sky. And as dawn approaches, a faint light begins to touch the edges of the hall. But the flame still flickers softly, still burns steadily, still glows with unwavering warmth. Olympus remains peaceful, because Hestia is here, because she has tended the flame, because she listens to the heartbeat of the mountain when no one else can. The goddess of the hearth opens her eyes again, just as the first pale glow of morning touches the horizon. A new day begins, quietly, gently, warmly, because the quiet heart of Olympus never stops beating. May Hestia's quiet flame keep your night warm. May its glow settle softly across your thoughts. May its warmth melt the weight from your shoulders. May its gentle light follow you into sleep like a guardian watching over the pot. Edge of dreams. The sacred flame flickers softly now, its glow smaller, quieter, curling into itself like a golden blossom closing for the night. The crackling grows faint, each pop of ember drifting farther away, as though the sound is sinking into deep velvet. The hall around you dims, shadows softening, edges blurring, everything melting into warm, gentle twilight. You feel the warmth move across your skin, not in waves, but in faint pulses like a heartbeat wrapped in light. The flame dips lower, its glow folds in, tucking itself into a tiny cradle of ember and gold. You breathe in, and the warmth breathes with you. You exhale, and the air softens around your face, cooling gently like night wind passing over silk. The crackling fades a little more, a soft whisper at the edge of hearing, like distant footsteps walking deeper into a forest of dreams. Every sound grows more delicate, more distant, more peaceful. The marble beneath your feet warms like sun-kissed stone, and you feel yourself sinking, slowly, comfortably, into its quiet safety. Hestia stands near the flame, her presence barely a silhouette now, soft, blurred, glowing faintly. She watches over the hearth, and over you, with the same eternal tenderness she gives to Olympus. Her breath is calm, her heart steady. Her warmth reaches you like a gentle hand resting on your shoulder, reassuring, comforting, telling you that you are safe. The flame flickers again, just once, a soft wave of gold rippling through the dim hall, the last full glow, the last bright breath. And then it begins to settle, dimming into a small pool of amber light, barely brighter than a candle behind frosted glass. Your own breath slows to match its rhythm. Inhale, and the ember brightens just a little. Exhale, and it softens again. Inhale, a faint glow. Exhale, a peaceful dim. The sounds of Olympus disappear one by one, like stars gently fading behind a morning mist. A distant sigh, a soft hum carried by wind, a faint whisper of feathers from Hermes' sandals as he sleeps. Then silence, a complete comforting silence, warm as a blanket, soft as down, deep as the quiet heart of a mountain at night. The sacred flame cracks one last time, a small tiny pop like a pebble dropping into still water, and the sound drifts farther and farther and farther, until it becomes only memory, only softness, only peace. Hestia steps closer to the dim ember, her presence steady, her shadow long and gentle across the marble floor. She lowers her hand, not to extinguish, never to extinguish, but to soothe the flame into night's slow breathing. The glow folds into itself, a single warm pulse, soft as a heartbeat felt through warm blankets. It is the last light you see before sleep, a tiny sun, a peaceful ember, the quiet heart of Olympus, beating softly just for you. Rest now, Hestia whispers, her voice soft as falling ash. Let the world be warm for you. Her words float toward you, drifting like warm smoke, settling like soft dust across your thoughts. Your eyelids grow heavier. Your breath grows slower. Your mind grows quieter, as though someone has dimmed every sound, every worry, every stray spark of thought. The warmth wraps you gently, curling around your body, around your shoulders, around the crown of your head, down your spine, into your hands, your feet, your very bones. You melt into it, into the quiet, into the softness, into the peace she offers. The ember flickers again, one tiny glow, barely there, a final whisper of golden light. Then it rests, still warm, still alive, still sheltering you. The crackling fades to nothing, slipping beyond the edge of sound, into silence so deep it feels like drifting underwater in warm, calm seas. The hall fades to shadows. The marble fades to nothing. The world fades to soft darkness. Only warmth remains, only breath, only peace. You breathe in and let the quiet fill you. You breathe out and the weight leaves your body. The last glow of the sacred flame pulses once more, faint as a memory, gentle as a sigh. Then even that soft pulse drifts away, carrying you with it into deep, comforting sleep. Hestia watches over you, her warmth lingering like a whisper on your skin. Her flame keeps the darkness gentle, keeps the night safe, keeps your dreams calm. Sleep now, sleep deeply, sleep peacefully. The quiet flame has you, the night is warm, your dreams are safe. Good night.